On today's show, our friend Julian McKenzie swings by to chat about Linus Ullmark's early season struggles.
And we preview 2 games this weekend, Saturday in Philly, and then up against the Utah Mammoth at home on Sunday.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's over at FanDuel. Today is Friday, November 7th, and Pillsy, for those who complained, myself included, about a lack of Senators hockey last week, well, you're making up for it now. It's a 3-4 back-to-back games this weekend, including a matinee tomorrow.
Yeah, and then after that, it's game, day off, game, day off, game. So, we're getting Ottawa Senators hockey coming up here. And if what we saw last night is what we're going to get every game, it might be tough to get through this stretch. Now, sure, they do get a point in a 3-2 loss to the Boston Bruins, but not a point you're happy about getting. I think sometimes there's instances where you're like, okay, I'm glad we got the point there. We found a way to do it. But this was not one of those times. And unfortunately, it's similar issues that the Ottawa Senators are facing. Goalies, Linus Ullmark, not being able to come up with a big save when it's needed, that overtime goal in particular. And the Ottawa Senators getting off to a slow start, which is tough to say when they finally didn't allow the first goal. In fact, they scored a goal on their very first shot on Judis Korpisalo, of course, but then kind of shut down possession and play after that. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of game they bring and if Travis Green makes any lineup changes to tomorrow's team up against the Philadelphia Flyers for an afternoon game.
It's going to be so annoying when they run back the same decor. And I need to bring this conversation to light because it's been, whether it's Nicholas Matinpalo or Jordan Spence, but at this point, it's Nick Jensen. There's no hiding from it anymore. Nick Jensen cannot be in the top 4 on this blue line right now. That's not to say that he wasn't amazing for them in the first half of last season. That's not to say that he didn't battle his bag off to get back into the mix early from surgery, but it's an adventure for him out there. He's 35 years old. He's coming back from a surgery way earlier than expected, and it's not working. So how long are they going to bang their head against the wall and let him work through this when it's costing them the team? He got beat 5 times last night, and one geeky ended up in the back of the net.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, Ross. It's also not to say that he can't get back to a level where he can play in the top 4. It's possible, but right now,
he doesn't need a Belleville trip. He needs a bed and breakfast. Get this guy some rest and then bring him back into the mix.
Yeah, and I mean, we're poking some fun at it, but I think it's fair for a guy his age that had hip surgery in the offseason, and one of his best attributes, arguably, is his skating ability. That's going to be affected. And regardless of all the reasons or excuses or however you want to label them, I just think it would be so easy to look at that decor and be like, let's give Nick Jensen at least one night off and see what the lineup looks like with Spence and Matinpalo in there. Especially when you're coming up to a back-to-back where you travel, and then you've got that quick succession of games right after. I think this would be the perfect time to mix in getting a different guy sitting out and bringing back Spence. I really hope we see it.
I do too. And Philly, obviously, they've got the aura of being this tough team. And we know that Travis Green's a reactionary coach and is going to want his size in the lineup. Despite
McDermott's playing regardless.
A loss. And McDermott played, I want to say, the second most minutes he's played in a game with the Ottawa Senators last night.
He's got to be gassed.
Let's find the record now. Above 4 minutes of ice time and below 4 minutes of ice time. We might be on to something here. LSP stats department is taking a look at that. But you mentioned they get a point. They do, but they don't take pride from this game. They shouldn't, at least. And when the players after the game are coming out saying that they didn't want it as much as the other team, that's such a bad indicator of where things are at right now. That was a team in your division that you just allowed win their 5th game in a row.
Yep.
And they're now streaking and they're jumping 3 points ahead of Ottawa now. I know it's early to be looking at the standings, but when you're in the precarious spot that Ottawa is early in the season without their captain and now on this weird schedule of home road, finally they'll get a settle at home for 4 games, then go on a proper road trip. Maybe we start seeing Brady Tkachuk pop up around practice. If I know one thing about Brady Tkachuk, he's not missing that road trip.
The California road trip?
I mean,
like you mean he's going to go, not necessarily
correct.
That he's going to play.
But
okay.
That's where he's going to start practicing with the team and getting his feet under him, because we're coming up on that time anyways. It was a hand injury, so it's something he can continue skate. I think it was more for vibes than anything of him going on the ice at the morning skate for the first road game after that in Washington. I mean, he should be doing it every time. They won that game 7-1. But when you're looking at it, it was like 3.5 weeks ago, and the timeline was 6 to 8 weeks. So after next week at home, you're looking at the time where you're about a week and a half away from the early part of the recovery window. So these next 6 games right now, or 5 games, sorry, the homestand plus the game Saturday, you need 3 wins. I don't even think that's asking for too much. You need 3 wins out of these 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, Philly, that's one you're going to want to win. You're going to want revenge on the Bruins on Thursday. The Mammoth are hot right now. Dallas is a good team. And LA, I think, is a little bit streaky too. You could probably get a win there. So that'll be interesting. Ross, I think definitely Brady should go on that road trip, because I think, and we mentioned this weeks ago, that game on the 28th in St. Louis for American Thanksgiving, that could be one that makes a lot of sense for him to target to return. Obviously, we know Brady loves playing in St. Louis, so that could be one. And then just LOSP stats department on the most important stats that we can discuss here. Curtis McDermott ice time, not his most ice time. He played 7 minutes, 47 seconds the last time they played the Bruins. And
that was the most. I said it was the second most.
Yeah. Not the second most either, though. He played 6:47 up against the Panthers and 5:05 against the Caps.
Okay, there you go. It would be 6 weeks and a little bit since the injury for Brady Tkachuk.
Today?
No, the game against the Blues. So that's the last game of the trip. Second last game of the trip. Third last game of the trip, because they always do this to Ottawa. They take them out west, and then on the way back, they're like, and stop in Montreal on the way back. I know you haven't been home in 2 weeks, but just one more game at the Bell Center and then come home.
How about this, Ross? Instead, let's have Brady come back December 6th at home against the Blues.
Yeah, I mean, if he can be in the lineup for December 2nd against Montreal, that would be really nice. And Ottawa needs all the help they can get to win in Vegas on the 26th. 1 win in that building.
Yeah, I'm not rushing Brady early to play in Vegas against the Golden Knights.
Yeah, fair enough. But Brady needs to come back, man. This team is lacking a bit of soul, I think. Is that fair to say?
Well, Ross, LOSP stats department did a little digging, and if soul can be converted into game-winning overtime goals, you're certainly onto something.
Yeah, so the Senators are 0-3 in overtime this year. They lost to Edmonton, Montreal, and Boston, and all in 3 different ways. Edmonton had a power play with Jake Wallman having a big shot from the point. Not Caulfield, he scored the opening goal on a breakaway. That was the first breakaway.
Yeah, you're mixing up your breakaway goals, Ross.
Well, Newhook actually gave it right back last night. He had a brutal giveaway in overtime, and Devils scored the winner, but brutal giveaway by Batherson in that one. And then last night, just neutral zone face-off with 20 seconds left, and they were able to get 2 full laps of your zone and score the winner. So it was unfortunate the way it ended, but if you look last season, the Senators were 9-5. They had overtime 14 times, and I'm only counting the games that ended in overtime, so I'm omitting shootouts. But just in overtime, 9 wins in 14 games, and Brady Tkachuk had almost half the goals. Brady had 4 overtime goals last season, so they're missing him in a big way out there. And it's kind of funny, though, because Brady doesn't seem like your prototypical speedy, shifty 3-on-3 player, but he's super effective in those times.
Yeah, and he's in 3-on-3 overtime, Ross. Sometimes it comes down to who wants it more. Like, there's all this open ice. There's all these plays that you need to win your one-on-one puck battles, or even not even when the puck's there, Ross. A lot of the time, through overtime is man-on-man coverage. You just have to out-battle whoever is covering you, and Brady's a guy that can do that.
Yeah, he can, and hopefully he's back soon doing that just over again, because the Senators need their captain to be back to where they hope to be, which would be in the playoff picture, the playoff hunt. Right now, they are tripping over shoelaces, but gathering a point here, a point there along the way. Senators coming off back-to-back overtime losses now after a shootout win against Calgary. So they're 3 consecutive games going past extra time, and they added 1 extra point on top of it. Feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. Missing in action. That's how I would describe Linus Ullmark's start to the season. He has made some big saves, but the numbers are jarring. The start isn't what he would have hoped for, and he needs to fix it quick. Julian McKenzie took a look at this over at The Athletic with help from their goalie guru, Jesse Granger. So we had Julian on the show this morning to discuss. So that'll play next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Rougiette. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress, I'm just tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body needs a little extra support, and that's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougiette makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's all about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. So visit Rougiette.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use our promo code LockedOnNHL so they know the Locked On Senators podcast sent you. Rougiette, stop making excuses and start making moves.
All right, Pillsy, busy weekend coming up for the Ottawa Senators on the road in Philly tomorrow afternoon, and then Sunday night from the nation's capital, Sens and the Utah Mammoth. After both games, you can find us on YouTube at Locked On Senators. The postcast, we vent or we vibe. Feels like it's been a bit too much venting, especially in the crease, Pillsy. Linus Ullmark has been outspoken. He's been playing a lot of games, but they haven't necessarily gone his way. What are you hoping to see from him in the one game we expect to see him this weekend?
Yeah, let's take it by a game-by-game basis here, Ross, because we know the Linus Ullmark that we've seen this season is very different than the Linus Ullmark we saw last season, and everybody is hoping that he can find his game and get back to that. I'm sure he would say the same thing, and there's different ways that you can look at why he hasn't met the expectations. I mean, this is a guy with a contract extension that's over $8 million that just kicks in this year, and he's expected to be the guy in Ottawa, and there's still some work to do, clearly. So let's see him have a big game, whether he plays tomorrow up against Philly or on Sunday up against the Utah Mammoth. We got to see a statement game from him soon here.
And it's about time, because last season it was the same deal. He only had 2 wins in his first 7 starts last season with an .892 save percentage. And if you can believe it, the save percentage is even lower this year. Now, we've talked about it at length, but we wanted to dive into the analytics of this. And over at The Athletic, our good friend Julian McKenzie put together with Jesse Granger, who is their goalie guy, they really went into the numbers, and I'm not embarrassed, but I don't want to read it. So I want to get it from the source himself. We'll bring on the author of the most recent Athletic article here, behind Senators goalie Linus Ullmark's struggles and how he's pushing back against them. Good friend Julian McKenzie joins us. What's up, man? How you doing?
Gentlemen, always a pleasure to kick it with you guys. What's going on?
Not much, man. I had something come up late last second, right before you jumped on. You and Pilsy did a fantastic job, but feels like long overdue for us to be catching up with you. Wish it was under a bit better circumstances than discussing the numbers of the goaltending for the Ottawa Senators this year. But how long does an article like that take to put together? And are you in the back of your mind thinking, oh, well, if he goes on a heater here in the next couple of games, it might fall apart?
This actually came together really quickly because earlier in the week, I mean, Linus Ullmark obviously coming up in conversation. By chance, I saw Jesse Granger talk about Linus Ullmark on the Athletic Hockey Show, which people should listen to. They should listen to your podcast and the Athletic Hockey Show podcast. And I thought it was really interesting to see Jesse Granger, who I trust on a lot of goalie stuff, just point out all these different concerns about Linus Ullmark. And I think just kind of from there, it gave me the idea to be like, hey, maybe it's probably worth going down that road of, just going into his struggles. But I know with Linus Ullmark, it's not the first time we've looked at him and said, oh, he's not playing that well. And I like actually talking to him and hearing from his vantage point how he feels he's playing. And then we got to talk to him this week, and then he says all the stuff that he said. It's not giving two shits about what we think, which personally, I don't mind that he says that. Like, if you're the Ottawa Senators and you're a team that wants to make the playoffs, you want to see some of that resiliency and that pushback from your goaltender. But I think it's also more than fair to delve into the struggles that he's had so far. So for him to say that, and then I started petting something, and then Jesse Granger just took it over and he brought it over to the finish line. Like, I appreciate the credit here, and I know I did my work on this, but Jesse Granger deserves a ton of credit for getting this to the finish line. Like, I think we decided like Thursday night, like, yeah, it's probably good that we get this out Friday. You're talking about like, oh yeah, are you worried about like a heat or whatever? It's like, we did the work in. It's probably good to get this out, like, as soon as we could get it done, right? Like, you don't want to wait and then the narrative changes and all that. But yeah, I for something like this took about a couple days. But it's again, Jesse did a lot of good work. I think I did my part too, but I'm really happy with what we did.
Yeah, good alley-oop article between the two of you. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, Julian, you mentioned that you get to talk to Linus a lot, and a lot of times hockey players, especially in these scrums, they've got their canned cliche answers. Yeah, you kind of can feel that they're not going to give you a lot here. But Linus Ullmark is not one of those guys. I think you probably know that better than anyone. When you're hearing the way that he's approaching this, do you feel like he's on the cusp of mentally getting past the struggles he has on the ice? Or what vibe do you get from him based on the answers he's giving and talking to him on a daily basis?
I'm not in his head, so I can't answer for sure if he feels he's on the cusp of turning it around. He definitely feels he can.
Right.
And that was the biggest takeaway from that two comment that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, hearing that is one thing, but to hear him say, like, with Justin Peters, the goaltending coach, that they focus more on what's going on up here, pointing at his head, more than the physical side of it, that to me was such an interesting response. Like, going from result to result. If games go well, games don't go well, you take your process from that. And hearing that one particular quote where he's saying, sometimes you don't get a lot of shots and you have to keep yourself mentally engaged, which is super interesting to say when you're on a team that's in the top 10 in like fewest shots allowed per game. Like, this team has prided itself at playing well at 5-on-5, where they're getting chances and they're limiting those against. And for Linus Ullmark to have to get into a point where he's like, yeah, I have to keep myself in it when I'm not getting as many shots. I'm like, I don't know how many other goalies I've ever heard kind of talk in that way. So for Linus in those moments, I even think back to training camp where he said he had a terrible showing like 2 days in. For him to be as honest, maybe sometimes too honest about his game sometimes, like for us in the media, it's like, well, yeah, sure. Like, if your goalie is going to be that honest that you're talking to, like, you take it. If you're the Ottawa Senators, though, I wonder, like, is that something you want to hear? Like, is if you're Justin Peters, you're like, you're being too honest. What do we need to work on behind the scenes to make that work? And if you're Steve Staios and you've shelled out all that money, you're like, you have to know that, like, maybe some of this might be coming, but at the same time, like, you want your goaltender playing better and not just being so in depth with his criticisms of himself.
And it's interesting because you know that goaltending is such a mental position and you appreciate that he's being honest. But from a fan's perspective, speaking
Yeah.
myself as like dumb fan, I would prefer the emotion and just being ticked off and like it's almost like when Mike McDaniels came into the Miami Dolphins, he was just this philosopher and he was so unique and quirky. But then all of a sudden when you start losing, it loses the little ha ha ha, and you're just like,
Yeah.
well, why don't we stop the puck? But when you're looking at the actual game, the only comment that I really like took from Allmark that you noted here, where I was like, I don't know about this, is when he just kind of referenced that it's just you look at the score and that's how you say he played poorly. I think there's times within games where he looks slow, he looks lethargic, he looks like he's having trouble getting across, and it was different because last night, Jonas Korpisalo is the antithesis of that, where he moves too much. All of his saves are athletic. He's scrambly, and he lets in bad goals as a result. But you want a little bit more battle, a little bit more drive. And I wonder where that fits into all this. In what Jesse noted and what you saw, do you think that the physical traits are good enough that this is more of a mental slump?
I mean, just to your point about him looking slow to react on certain things, I definitely share that opinion as well. Like Jesse highlighted a whole bunch of clips we were talking about throughout the week. Like the one clip he highlighted when we were talking about it, it's the Chicago clip where he's slow going from left to right. Like I even made that remark myself watching the game. And there's been a few instances where he's going from his left to his right where he's not lightning quick, where there have been previous instances where he's shown that he can do that. So yeah, and when I tried to ask him if he was healthy or if he was at least close to 100%, he said just, he goes through the usual pains and aches, but I don't know. Like I could understand if you watch the footage, your first thought might be, well, is he okay? Is he 100%? And at least Linus wouldn't let on that he wasn't 100%, but and I don't know if that makes it better or worse that he might be healthy and he's not playing at the level expected of him after signing that contract. It's a situation that has to resolve itself one way or another sooner rather than later, because I still think with the way that the Senators are playing at 5-on-5, the fact that they've been able to keep themselves afloat without Brady Tkachuk, I think they deserve some credit. I know it's been a lot more doom and gloom. I think they do deserve some credit with the way that they've been able to get some wins here and there without their leader. But if this team gets to a point where the goaltending just is not helping them in this situation, we're talking about a team that's going to be on the outside looking in when it comes to playoff time. And you guys know better than me with how goaltending has been such an Achilles heel for this franchise. For Linus Ullmark to be in that position, it would be extremely disappointing for everyone involved.
Final question for me, Julian. We're 14 games into the season, and Linus Ullmark has started 12 of them. Levi Merrilainen only 2 of them. In your opinion, and the Sens have tried different things. They've given him full days off, the one game, and that didn't really work. Now there's been a big break between their game against Montreal and their game against Boston. That didn't really provide the results they probably wanted either. Do you think this is a situation where they're trying to give Linus the opportunities to play through this and bounce back on his own? Or do you think maybe it's time, look, you kind of put your chips in on Levy being your backup. If Linus is struggling, use Levy a little bit more. Where do you stand on the usage of Linus Ullmark in this slump, if you want to call it that?
Well, I think with the amount of games coming up for the Sens, we're going to see Levi Merrilainen play a little bit more. I mean, Saturday, for example, to me, 1:00 start against Philadelphia in Philadelphia, that looks like a prime opportunity for Levi Merrilainen to play the first of a back-to-back where Utah, you play at 7 p.m., that's a game you give to Linus Ullmark against one of the best teams in the NHL right now, which is kind of crazy to say about the Utah Mammoth, but here we are. And then you've got like 4 games coming up next. So what? You got the Utah on Sunday, Dallas is up on Tuesday, Boston and Los Angeles are also in the next week as well. There are ample opportunities for Levi Merrilainen to get some time in if the Senators want to play him. I mean, there's a reason why they keep sending Levi Merrilainen down in the minors. It's not just for him to regain the feel. They want him playing games. That's still a really young goaltender they have in their stable, and they want him to get opportunities to play. I think if you're the Ottawa Senators, and you've seen how Linus Ullmark has been playing lately, which, yes, like, I mean, I don't put everything on that Boston game on him. Maybe you want better on that overtime goal, but clearly you need him to get results, but maybe you might need to give him a break or two. So I think Saturday for sure, I think we'll see Levi Merilainen. I think maybe you give Levy the Boston game next week, and then you let Ullmark do Utah and then Dallas, and maybe you bring him back for LA, or maybe you go back and forth between Levy and Linus for those last 2 games of the week. But there's ample opportunities for Levy to play. And I mean, he played pretty well in his last NHL start too. Remember, his first start against Buffalo, not so great, but I think he found a way to rebound in his second game. If you give more reps to Levy, maybe that helps him in this situation, and you trust your backup a little bit more, which they gave him that vote of confidence in the summer. There's every reason to do that with Levy, but I think also just maybe balancing it a little bit with Linus might help.
And we're getting to the exact point we were with Linus Ullmark at the start of last season. He's played 12 games this year, and in his first 13 games last year had an .881 save percentage, and right now he's sitting at .863. So even a step worse. Now it can turn in an instant, like it did for Ullmark. He went 923, 912, 950, 973, 969, shutout 926, shutout 938 as the stretch after that, when he was named one of the stars of the month in December. But you're a star of The Athletic. What an article. We love it. We would want everybody to go check that out.
I'm no star, man.
Yeah, bro.
Here's the thing, man. I do my role on a star-studded team, man. I do my work. I do my work on a star-studded team.
What are you, like a third line center? Is that where you consider yourself?
I would love to be a third line center at The Athletic, man. I'm just wherever they want to play me, they play me. If I have to be Nick Cousins on a first line, I'll do it.
Well, get this: first line talent, fourth line grit and energy, and always a friend of the show. Thanks so much for doing this, Julian. We really appreciate you, and always look forward to your latest with The Athletic.
Appreciate it, gentlemen, and we'll catch up soon.
All right, there he goes. Julian McKenzie on the other side. Weekend preview. What's going on this weekend? Philadelphia, Utah. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay, making that late game push, and it'll give you a bigger shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Awesome deal for new customers, and always check out all the promos and profit boosts and no sweat bet offers that FanDuel has. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, Pillsy, shout out to Julian for joining us. Really fun conversation. Always enjoy having Julian's insight and energy on the show. But we've got to see some energy out of the gate from the Ottawa Senators. I didn't know I had to be even more specific about scoring first, but I would also like that to mean that you don't get outshot 9-1 in the first 10 shots of the game.
Baby steps, Ross. We started with not getting scored on first. Now we improved to scoring first. And now maybe it's fair to ask for getting more shots and keeping puck possession up in the first period.
Is it too much to ask for like a dominant first period?
Yeah.
I feel like they haven't had one of those yet in a while. Like the Washington game, they were only up 1-0. They pulled away in the second period of that one. Boston game, 7-2. They pulled away in the third period of that one. Like, they haven't had a dominant first period yet this season. The closest you could get would be the Islanders game. They're still up 1-0, but they controlled play there for quite a majority of it. So let's see like a nice 3-0 lead after the first period, even 2-0. Have a 5 or more advantage on the shot clock. Maybe a power play. Don't give up any. Just a nice clean period. Could we ask for that?
A clean period. I think that's appropriate.
Okay, a clean period.
And
that includes getting saves. You with Julian, though, I know I've asked you a million times, but I keep flip-flopping in my head. I think Julian laid it out nicely that Levy gets the game on Saturday, and you go with Ullmark at home and say, hey, bud, you want to let 18,000 of your best friends down? Didn't think so. So he's going to start kicking them out there.
Yeah, I'm sticking to my take that Levy starts Saturday.
Yeah, love that. Let's look at the Ottawa Senators going in to that game. We're not even going to take a stab at any changes. So we're going to go based on the Ottawa Senators lineup from the game against Boston, which would mean Tim Stützle is centering the top line with Nick Cousins on his left wing and Drake Batherson on his right. Then it's Dylan Cousins at center between Ridley Gregg and David Perron. Shane Pinto, third line with Michael Amadio and Claude Giroux. And then Lars Eller, Curtis McDermott, and Fabian Zetterlund. On the back end, Jake Sanderson with Artem Zub, Thomas Chabot with Nick Jensen, Tyler Clevin with Nicholas Matinpalo. And we still got Ullmark there, but we both think that Merrilainen should start this game. The Senators, they got robbed of a power play goal in last night's game as the puck crossed line just a second afterwards. But the numbers are what they are, Pilsy. The Sens are 0 for 13 in their last 4 games on the power play, while their opponent's power play is 4 for 11. They've given up a shorty. They've scored a shorty during this stretch, but that's something you'd like to see the power play get going on Saturday.
Yeah, now I'll transition this into my locked on player and the player featured in our picture here on YouTube. Claude Giroux was mere milliseconds away from getting a power play goal last game. So my guy, number 28, will do it up against the Philadelphia Flyers. We've talked about it, but I'm going to emphasize it here. Matinee game up against the Flyers in Philadelphia. This is a Claude Giroux special. Head to FanDuel, get your prop bets in. I'm talking shots. I'm talking anytime goal scorer. I'm talking points. I'm talking assists. Get those prop bets in for Claude Giroux tomorrow, and make sure you do it early, 1 o'clock game. So as soon as you get up, first thing you do, make sure you're ready and set for that. Claude Giroux had a goal in last game. I'm expecting him to keep it going here. And an assist. Yeah, he's actually been a pleasant surprise this season as he has 10 points in 14 games. So I like Claude Giroux tomorrow.
And why doesn't he just continue to climb the NHL's all-time points list? With his 2 last night, he tied 64th all-time. He's only 5 away from number 63. Bernie Federko, he's coming for you, but maybe not on Saturday. I like that call, though, for a locked-on player. I'm going to take yours from last game, Ridley Gregg, because I'm starting to really get concerned about Ridley Gregg. And maybe it's the usage. I just think that they've given him this opportunity here in the last number of games. He's playing a lot. He had 20 minutes in the Montreal game, 1933 last night. It just feels like the production isn't matching the usage right now. Ridley's been fantastic in the faceoff circle. I think that he's been good on the penalty kill. You can't really say anybody's been great on the PK just based on the numbers, but he did have a couple great breakup plays where he got the puck out, and that's all you need from a guy who's really just kind of monitoring the top of the diamond. That just rings in my head when I hear it once. It just haunts me. But Ridley Gregg needs to be providing some secondary offense for this team, and 1 goal in 14 games is just not enough. So we know that he grew up bleeding orange with his dad, a big part of the Flyers, still a scout for them. So what better way than to go into that barn where you had pictures of your your teammate, I'll say. They haven't necessarily been on the same line, but Claude Giroux wearing that jersey in your room growing up. And now you're on his team going into that building. Let's see a little extra something from Ridley. And he's done it there before. Remember that hit he threw on Rasmus Ristolainen a couple of years ago? He blew him up, and then Ottawa scored on that play too. So let's see him get a momentum-shifting play and give Ottawa something to hang their hat on here that isn't just Tyler Clevin answering for a big hit that's already come to the other way.
Yep, I agree. Are we going to do Philly's lines, or are we going to the Mammoth game?
Let's take a quick peek at the Philadelphia Flyers. This is how they're expected to line up. They're coming off of a win over the Nashville Predators that felt like it broke the Preds franchise. Ryan O'Reilly just disgusted with himself after that game. They get a 3-1 win. And they're a team that they're frisky would be how I would describe the Philadelphia Flyers so far this season. They're 8-5-1, so they're producing wins. They're also a team that just kind of, to me, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, they've got some of the rebuild aspects in, but they've got some of the old guys still in. They added a strange short-term but high-value contract in Christian Dvorak this offseason. Their decor, to me, is a bit of a mess, but Dan Vladar is still playing great hockey this season, 6-3-0 with a .917 save percentage. Ersson has fallen all the way down into Linus Ullmark territory with his save percentage. So if you're Team Sweden, a tough decision for who was going to be the third goalie with Philip Gustafsson and Jacob Markstrom. It might have been a lock for Ullmark once upon a time, but I don't know, man. That's another conversation for another day. But Philly's goaltending has been hit and miss. Their forwards, though, they are getting some great production from guys like Trevor Zigras, specifically, who is on an absolute tear right now. And I will leave more of that to a moment. Here are the lines for the Flyers. Christian Dvorak centering Owen Tippett and Trevor Zigras, followed up by Sean Couturier with Matvei Michkov and Bobby Brink. The third line, Noah Cates with Nikita Gurbankin and Travis Konechny. And the fourth line is Abels, Delorier, and Hathaway. The decor, Cam York with Travis Sanheim, Nick Seeler with Jamie Drysdale, Emil Andre with Noah Juleson, and then Vladar and Ersson. Pilsy, your lookout player to watch.
My lookout player is going to be the leading point scorer for this team, and kind of a surprise to me, Ross, when I checked in on it. It is number 46, Trevor Zigras, 15 points in 14 games. He's got 4 goals, 11 assists, and there is only, I believe, 3 games when I checked, maybe not accurate, but I think I remember writing that down, where he has not, 4 games where he has not had a point this season. Is that what you're talking about?
Including last night, it's 4.
Yeah, so like, he's been able to consistently every night find ways to produce points. So that's a guy I'm going to be looking out for up against the Sens.
And he hasn't gone 2 straight games this season without recording a point, and that will be put to test tomorrow. He failed to produce against Nashville, and that ended a 5-game point streak where he had 5 assists. And I know there's a majority of the doubters for Trevor Zigras will call him a TikTok hockey player, where he's got that 30-second burst where it's like, man, is this guy the best player ever? But then the rest of the game, it's just not there. And Alfie's not a fan of his either. Apologies if you can hear him going crazy. I'll hand it over to you with this, though. They're making this work for whatever reason, the way that things are lined up. Like, if you had told me Trevor Zigras would have 15 points, but he'd be playing with Christian Dvorak, I would have said, no way.
Yeah, Ross, when you have a goalie that in 9 starts has a 218 goals against and a 917 save percentage, that's going to help your chances of winning hockey games. And Dan Vladar has been much better than I think anyone would have expected for this Flyers team. So that's been huge for them. And Rick Tocchet, great coach. So I think this Flyers team is building the right way. I don't think they're quite where they want to be yet, but they're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, they certainly are. So for my lookout player to watch with Philadelphia, I'll go a different direction. I usually do Konechny just because I'm a big fan of his. He's one of those guys, him and Mackenzie Weegar, you just wish they could find a way to play for the Ottawa Senators, but he's cozy in Philly. He just signed a big ticket and they're very happy with the results. Konechny has 12 points in 14 games. I'm going to go with more of an unsung player, and I know the name just because he was still playing in college during the Nodak Sens era. He was on, I think, one of the teams that knocked out Nodak one of the years, but Noah Cates is a really good start to the season and maybe a bit of an underrated player. He signed a much lesser deal than what everyone is expecting Shane Pinto to sign. But if you look at their career numbers, like, they're pretty much tit for tat.
They were comparable at the time when Kate signed that deal.
And they kind of still are. Like, obviously, Pinto has more goals this season, but Noah Cates is off to a great start with 10 points in 14 games, 29 shots on goal. He's averaging over 17 minutes. Big part of their penalty kill as well. He even got a little bit of Selke love 3 seasons ago as a first full year player in the league. So he's a guy who I think is very unknown outside of the Philadelphia market, but this is a guy who scored 15 even strength goals last year out of his 16 goals. Like, he's a guy that can produce offense, had 37 points last year, looking to smash that now as a 26-year-old. So I'll be keeping an eye out for a guy who can play center, play wing, and really is the difference as the third line pivot of whether or not that's a bottom six line, or with Konechny on that wing, if Cates can elevate that and be kind of a 2B line to help their depth. So that's my lookout player, and that's how the Philadelphia Flyers are lining up against the Ottawa Senators. The Flyers come in winners of 2 in a row, 7 of their last 10 games. Their special teams this season have been not great on the power play, mid, the kids would say, at 20.5%. Their penalty kill, though, clicking.
Yes.
87.8%. Pillsy, that's 5th in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, so you mentioned it, Ross. The Ottawa Senators power play hasn't been why they've been able to kind of stay afloat here and get points in games, but I don't think it's going to suddenly turn around up against the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, the Utah Mammoth, though, that's a team that's been really hot, but their special teams isn't really that significant in either aspect. They're 21st at 17.4% on the power play, and then penalty kill, they're 21st also at 76.9%. So, and then faceoffs, 47%. So this is kind of a team that doesn't have a dominant part of their game, but they're finding ways to win. And guys like my lookout player, Nick Schmaltz, who's in a contract year, are lighting it up. He has 18 points in 14 games. So we know what Nick Schmaltz can do up against the Senators. Sure, it was in a different jersey with the Arizona Coyotes, but every time he plays up against Ottawa, I'm always reminded of, was it a 7-point game he had? Like
7 points, yeah.
Yeah, so like this guy's capable of it. And like I mentioned, contract year, he's going to be really pushing to keep things going.
And even without that 7-point game, he would still have 10 points in 12 games against Ottawa, but he's up to 17 in 13 games. And yeah, that one was haunting. And it was also in that era where, like, I think Mike Condon played that game. Might have been his last NHL game, if I'm not mistaken, but they got pumped by Arizona.
Wow.
And it was like, this is like where the rebuild officially had to begin. It was so bad. 5-1 loss in Arizona was Mike Condon's last NHL game. He allowed 3 goals on 11 shots. And that was tough. Tough times. We're past that, though, with the Ottawa Senators, we hope. And with this upcoming weekend series, it's going to be like it's not in Utah. We'll get to that, but we've never heard that goal horn go off.
Don't want to know.
And the Sens got both wins against Utah last year. It was,
shutouts.
If I'm not mistaken, they were both shutouts.
I think so. I know one of them was. I think the other one might have been 2.
No, I think it was 3-1 or 3-2. You're thinking
Okay.
of the other new team. Seattle, they shut out both times last year.
I
So
do
it was
get those guys.
3 shutouts in 4 games against Utah and
Seattle.
The stat everybody wanted us to end the show on.
It's important.
But I actually have a good stat to end the show off. But
Hit me.
before I get to it, I also want to note a great comment from Bill Armstrong, the GM of Utah, Mammoth coming in. This is a water cooler story. He said that they have a video room where their technological setup costs more than the entire facility they played in Arizona.
I mean, yeah, that's crazy. Remember, but I think it was before the season started, Ross, I made you pull up Utah Mammoth's practice facilities. It is spectacular. So I don't doubt that.
And it all came up in like less than a full calendar year. Wild, the amount of work. Imagine the Sens rink could get done that quickly. They'd already be looking for a new rink. It would have been built so long ago.
Yeah, you and I would have broken backs if the Sens rink got put up that quickly, because we would have been shoveling like crazy.
Well, I don't want to say that we've got broken backs, but our chests are puffed out a little bit for this one. And It's for the entire network. Pilsy, by any number of measures, the Locked On Podcast Network is now the #1 sports podcast network in North America.
Let's go.
#1.
Let's go, baby.
That's
Number
awesome.
1.
Congratulations to all the great work across the network. There's a show. I don't know if everybody knows this. For every team in every league, your team every day. And there's some enormous podcast networks that have had the backing of joining podcasts, but already having a cable TV audience and already having a radio audience, and all the years that have predecessed podcasts. For the Locked On Podcast Network, now in year 7. And Pillsy and I just had our 6-year anniversaries, but we like to celebrate on November 10th because that was the first episode of Locked On Senators. It was November 10th, 2019. It's almost 6 years ago, man. And the Locked On Podcast Network is now number 1 in North America as a sports podcast network.
Love that. Yeah. To steal Julian McKenzie's line, we're just happy to be a part of a great team, and we just try to play our role.
All right. And that role includes live reaction after every single game, quick YouTube short up on all social media platforms, and then the grand finale of the game, the postcast after every game, live on YouTube. Then we post the audio to wherever is easiest for you to consume it. For today, we say goodbye. That next postcast will come tomorrow afternoon. Note the start time, 1 p.m. Eastern. Senators, Flyers from Philadelphia. Feels like those matinees, they're always fun. There's always a little something going on. And we hope the main characters, I'm looking at former Flyers, Nick Cousins and Ridley Gregg and Claude Giroux, to get their stamp on the game. And then we'll do it again on Sunday. Though for today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show and helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the number 1 sports podcast network in North America. You can find us on Twitter at Sens Central. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.